In this module, we are talking everything about your sleep. Now, sleep is a super important factor when it comes to fat loss, when it comes to improving your performance in the gym, when it comes to improving and increasing muscle growth. It's really, really important that we are getting enough sleep. And most of us, especially teachers, are not getting enough sleep on a nightly basis. Now, when I'm going to be talking about sleep, I'm going to be talking about quality of sleep because people will tell me that they're sleeping 8 hours but they're waking up and they are still really tired. Now, going to bed at 10 o'clock and getting up at 6 o'clock does not necessarily mean you're getting 8 hours sleep. Yes, you may be in your bedroom and maybe in bed, but it doesn't mean you're sleeping. A lot of people will actually go on their phones before they go to sleep, and that's actually one of the worst things you can actually do. So when I'm talking about sleep, I'm talking about actually being asleep, getting good quality sleep. And the amount of sleep that I would recommend at a very minimum is 7 hours. Very minimum. Optimally, we want to be going to bed 8 hours before we need to get up because that will actually give us around 20 to 30 minutes to actually drift off, and that will give us a good 7.5 hours sleep, which is recommended as the best and most optimal amount of time to sleep. So I want you to think about firstly now, what time do you normally get up at? And I want you to count back 8 hours and I want you to set that as your new bedtime. Now, the second thing I want to say is that your sleep pattern has to be regular or should be as close to regular as possible throughout the 7 days. Another thing that a lot of people don't do is, or what they do is they get up a lot later at the weekend. And I understand that the weekend you might get a bit of a lie-in. But what I want you to understand is that the more regular your sleep cycle is, the better your energy is going to be, the better your mood's going to be, the lower your cravings are going to be, the better your performance in the gym is going to be. So again, we want to aim for 8 hours on the weekends and trying to go to bed roughly at the same time and getting up at the same time at the weekends. That might take a bit of getting used to, especially if you have social events, but it's really important to try and get on top of our sleep. So, as I said, there are many benefits of how we feel, our energy and mood in relation to our sleep. And one of the key things that have changed my lifestyle and has changed my understanding of sleep is having a bedtime routine. Now, this again is optional. You do not need to build in all the things I'm going to talk about, but I'm going to give you some tips of how you can improve your sleep on a day-to-day basis. And I want you to think about building a nighttime routine. And that can be for anywhere from 30 minutes before you go to bed up to 1 hour before you go to bed. But here's some of the things that I do that allow me to get the best night's sleep. The first thing I want you to do is make sure that your room is cold. And when I say cold, I'm looking around 18 degrees. So if you're in a country that's quite warm, you want to set the AC to 18 degrees. If you're not, I want you to slightly open a window and just allow some fresh air into the room to make it nice and chilly. Not freezing, but nice and chilly, because when you need to drift off to sleep, you need to lower your body temperature. So going into a chilly room will allow that to happen quicker and will allow you to fall asleep quicker. So that's the first thing I want you to start thinking about. The second thing I want you to start thinking about is reducing the amount of artificial light in your environment for the hour before bed. Now, that could be turning off the sitting room lights, the kitchen lights, the hall lights. Just turning off those lights alone and reducing the amount of artificial light is going to increase our sleep hormone known as melatonin. Now, if we think about our ancestors again, back thousands of years ago or less, there was no such thing as artificial light. This is only a new phenomenon. So people used to go to bed when the sun went down. And they used to get a lot more sleep because they would rise when the sun got up. That was their sleep time. That was their sleep pattern. Nowadays, we're getting up before the sun comes up, and we're going to bed much later. And not only that, but we have this artificial light that our body doesn't know any different. Our body thinks the sun is still up. So our body is finding it very hard to get good quality sleep because of all this artificial light. Now, we want to reduce that amount of light as much as possible. So I want you to start thinking about dimming all the lights in the house before bed. Now, if you can, and another thing I've invested in blue light blocking glasses. These are not a necessity. I don't say you have to do this, but again, I'm trying to give you as many tips as possible. These are glasses that basically block the blue light, the artificial light that your eyes are seeing and your brain is seeing and so on. And again, it allows your melatonin, your sleep hormone, to increase that bit more. However, when it comes to your phone and even TVs now, there's an option to go block blue light. I want you to start thinking about using that, especially on your phones, because that will limit the amount of artificial light that you're actually consuming. Okay, so we need to limit the amount of artificial light. The next thing I want you to get in the habit of is putting your phone away at least 30 minutes before bed. When you're on your phone, whether it's just scrolling through social media, replying to text messages, WhatsApp groups, whatever it is, your brain is being active. It's thinking all the time, but it's thinking faster. It's being creative. It's actually working. Okay, we want to try and let our brain relax as much as possible. So by getting off social media, getting off these reactive type of things, we're going to allow our brain and our body to switch off and relax that bit more. And that brings me to another thing. People read before bed, and I think that's a fantastic tip because it allows your body to unwind, your brain to relax, and it tires your eyes. However, be mindful of what you're reading. And this is something I found myself. When I was reading non-fiction types of books, business books, things that educational books that I wanted to read, these kind of things to improve my knowledge, I found that I was actually my brain was switched on, and I found it hard to switch off. And that's actually not a good thing to do. So I would suggest reading more fictional stuff that doesn't make you think that hard. And again, it's like watching Netflix. You just kind of drift off. It makes you nice and relaxed.